Welcome to Financially Incorrect, a cheeky take on serious financial topics. This is a podcast that is sponsored by fxpressa.com, and today I have a fantastic guest, a creative geek. Ted Josiah is here with me, and we're here to discuss his financial journey in the creative industry, the millions he made, or lost, and and how he ended up in the entrepreneurship space as well. Welcome, Ted.
Asante sana.
Yeah,
thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, it's good to have you here. You're our third interview now.
Oh wow, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, I think we're picking up a bit of steam now.
All right, yeah, that's good. Very good.
About this. Yeah,
lovely.
So first, as I was sort of researching and trying to get a bit of background data on who you are.
You Googled me. Shame on you.
I Googled. Then
Why?
I got. In fact, let me tell you the first thing that I found when I Googled.
What?
The first thing I found was Ted Josiah says Sauti Soul are going to be irrelevant in 20 years. That's the first thing I saw when I Googled your name.
I didn't say that, but wow.
Yeah, that's what I was told as well. I was told that you were misquoted.
No, I wasn't misquoted. I didn't say that.
Oh, you didn't say it at all?
No, I went on to an interview with Andrew Kibe, and what I said was this: a lot of the music coming out of Africa right now is going to be irrelevant in the next 3 months, not 20 years. And it's a fact.
Yeah.
You know, nowadays people listen to music for all of about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And I've been asking myself why this is so. In our time, we had radio and we had the club, and you had to run away from home to go to the club. So you weren't in the club every single weekend. You know,
right.
I had enough of stuffing my bed with pillows. I was once busted, but that's a different story.
Right.
And you had radio.
Yeah.
So you'd listen to your favorite song on radio or in the club or in the M3. But now you have your favorite song on TikTok on everybody's video.
Yes.
You get tired of it.
So then
like
you feel
a
like
week.
the longevity of the
music. I mean, because it's, you know, when you listen to it over and over and over and over, it becomes so monotonous that you just want to switch it off.
Yeah.
And the artists also know that they have to keep up with the trend. So they have to make more music. But then again, it's called pop music. What does the word pop mean? It's a balloon. Pop.
Yeah.
Poof, gone. Do you know what I mean? It's not
next second.
It's not Bob Marley, emancipate yourself from mental slavery or anything. It's just you know, quick fix. So yeah, I was misquoted on that, and I really just thought to myself, somebody's trying to get you know,
a couple of clicks.
Yeah, and I said, knock yourself out, man. Yeah,
it's fine. Anyway, so that I guess sort of, you know, gives us a great segue into who you actually are, and to do yourself justice, I'll let you introduce yourself, so to speak.
Well, I call myself a creative geek because I like to dabble with different mediums. So when it comes to, I mean, I was one of the things people don't know is I was the top sculptor in Kenya in 1988 when I was doing my exams. I did my A-levels, and one of the things I did was sculpting, and I beat everyone at that.
Yeah.
And then I thought to myself, I don't want to mess around with clay.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
It's not cool.
Yeah.
Thinking back, maybe I should have.
Yeah.
But then you give me a guitar, I'll mess around with it and find something interesting. You give me a keyboard, I'll mess around with it. You give me a piece of paper, I'll mess around with it.
Yeah.
You give me cloth, I'll mess around with it.
Yeah.
That's why I call myself a creative geek. I've done everything from music production to setting up television stations for people across Africa and training people on how to be television producers and content creators.
Yeah.
So God just put me in this space to
dabble.
Right now I am a bag maker and a dad, and that's what I'm enjoying doing. I don't know if I'm going to enjoy doing it in the next 3 months. Yeah. You know, my career might be as pop as the ones I was dissing.
Right. Right. Okay. So let me give you actually a bit of a story. I found out now when I was researching, I found out that technically you have a role in an integral memory that I have. I found out that you were the one who produced the Unbogable song.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And many people associate it with the politics and the election and Raila coming in. But for me, It was actually, I don't remember the year it came out, but I remember I'm a huge rugby supporter.
Okay,
So I remember
alright.
around when the song came out, Five Sevens was happening.
Yeah.
And that was the song that the Kenya team
Oh,
used to run out to.
Oh, wow.
So I remember the final of that year Safari Sevens, I can't remember what it was, and it was just before Benjamin Ayimba came out with Oscar Osei.
Yeah.
So the DJs were blasting and Boga.
Oh, wow.
And for me, it was like to this day, one of the most iconic sports memories that I have in this country. But anyway, so
that song was made in 30 minutes.
In 30 minutes.
Yeah, and what people hear is the rough mix. That wasn't the final mix. The musicians were cheeky enough to just take the rough mix and go and give it to Kiss. Same morning. And it hit same day.
Is it because they knew it was a hit? Or
we all knew there was something about the song.
Yeah.
Not that it was a hit, there was just something about the song.
Yeah.
And nobody wanted to waste time on it.
Yeah.
It was let's just go with it as is.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of distortion in the song, but it just became part of the song. People think it's an effect. It's not an effect. It was
it just wasn't
a
the
whole
final.
lot of Fanta, black currant and Kenya cane
Yeah.
at 8:30 in the morning was a very bad idea. Yeah.
And that's how
the song came about. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So I guess you've told us that you are creative geek and you dabble in all sorts of stuff, and we are primarily a financial podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess you've given us maybe actually you could give us a bit more insight into the genesis of your creative mold.
It started when I finished high school. I worked as a graphic designer for a bit, and got bored of that and moved into the music space as a gospel musician. And then as a musician, yeah. Don't look for the videos. And realized very quickly that my style of vocal wasn't quite vocaling.
Right.
I was better off making the music, playing the keys, orchestrating stuff, and actually the gift I was given in the music industry at that particular point, nobody had. So I thought to myself, well, I'm just going to be the guy making the music.
Yeah.
And then later on I realized, they're called music producers. And I'm like, yeah, cool. Yeah. Slap that on. I'm a music producer. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
But then I started seeing Kenyan music in a different light.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was like, there was a KBC, and it was the English service and the Swahili service, and the English service would play only R&B and country music and blah blah blah, and whatever was hot.
What
at
year
the time.
was this? To give
it was
context?
back in 1989, 90 is when I started out, and fresh out of high school, I always had this thing of, if you can think it, you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So let nobody stifle your growth.
Right.
There was no YouTube, there was no internet, there was no nothing. It was just ideas in my head, and how do you get these things? I met a couple of people. They had a little technical knowledge. I combined that with the knowledge I had of music. By 1996, I had my first hit with Hearthstone, which was Uhiki.
Mm-hmm.
I say 1996, that was 6 years of
toys.
researching.
Yeah.
But I figured out that there was a generation coming up that didn't want to listen to Swahili service because they were not in touch with Swahili Sanifu. Mm-hmm. They wanted something that was more street, that represented who they were on the street. Yeah, and I'd look around, and the Matatu culture had already caught on to Sheng. Mm-hmm. So they were doing all this graffiti with, street vibes and stuff like that. And I thought to myself, if we could get that street vibe into this hip hop culture and this R&B culture and make it work, something will come of it. Yeah. So people like Kalamashaka with Tafsiri, he came out, big hit. Kenyan Boy, Kenyan Girl, yes. Nazizi Waire, Bless My Room. And I did a lot of the at that time, the new school music. Yeah. And the older generation looked at it and frowned upon it because they were like, how dare you take Marvin Gaye's Sexual Healing and put a Kikuyu chant on top of that. Right. You are, but it worked. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it got to a point that in my musical journey, you start to ask yourself questions. Is this all I'm about? Am I just about fusing street culture with American street culture, or is this something deeper?
Yeah.
And then I sat for 6 months not making any music, just listening to a lot of stuff. And Kisumu 100 came about, Susanna Wheel.
Yeah.
And that came about as a result of me saying, I need to dig into my African roots more and figure out musically, not lyrically, but musically, what it is that I'm not tapping into. And this is a question I ask people to date. What tribe are you? How many traditional instruments from that tribe do you know? Can you play any of them? Can you name any of them? Can you make any of them? And when you ask that about music and food, you realize that a lot of people don't know nothing, man.
Yeah.
You know, we're losing our cultures,
Yeah.
and we're losing our vibes. And when you look at Nigerian music, what you're listening to right now is based on the traditional rhythms, vibes, and everything that came out of their forefathers. It's just done in a digital way. So how come we don't have more chakacha hip hop happening in Kenya, or chakacha trop, or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah.
How come we don't have more benga pop?
Yeah.
How come we don't have more? You know, people aren't dabbling in the roots and culture that we found. It's not that we found an empty space.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, the Maasai chants, how come they're not being used in our music?
So what is it that people are then doing? And sort of, maybe you've answered this a little bit, but I know, for example, like in my circle of friends, people, or even in the past, people have talked about the lack of a Kenyan sound, so to speak, whatever that means. I mean, being able to identify Kenyan music amongst many others. So my question, I guess, is twofold. If people are then not relying on cultures, then what is it that they're doing? And what is then your I guess, response to the fact that some people think that there's no Kenyan sound?
I think that's rubbish. There's a lot of Kenyan sounds.
Yeah.
There's Ohangla. There's Momboko. There's the Maasai chants, the Maasai music, which is very vocal in its approach. There's Kamba music, which is very rhythmic.
Yeah.
There's the Pokomo and Doromo drummers, who were very big with their big Mijikenda drums, were always a huge team of drummers. There's Swahili music, which has been there for over 400 years, which is Taarab music. And Taarab music is one of the oldest orchestral forms of music that has been intentionally deleted off the face of the planet. It is older
Intentionally deleted.
Yes, it is older than white European classical music. In fact, European classical music draws from Taarab.
How has it been intentionally deleted?
With time, our history is whitewashed.
Yeah.
I say whitewashed intentionally. When you look at the sitar, let me take one instrument, the sitar, which is the great-grandfather of the guitar. The sitar is still played in parts of Mombasa, and there are maestros in Mombasa and Tanzania and Dar es Salaam and Pemba, Zanzibar, who are maestros who play these instruments. I've watched these old men, and they're very, very old, play these instruments to proficiency that we don't even see in Saudi Arabia and places like that. Now, those instruments migrated with empires and emperors, and obviously the Moors, who were from Africa, migrated into Spain and introduced music into that region. A lot of that instrument, or a lot of those instruments, when you look at sitar and guitar and stuff like that, flamenco draws from the guitar, which draws from the sitar, and when you listen to the scales that they play, are all very, very Arabic in their grooves.
Yeah.
Now, what happened is, when we got colonized, a lot of our cultures we were told they were black, They were too dark. They were, voodoo.
Yeah.
And the music was, it wasn't good because drums make you become this demonic creature when you listen to too many drums. And I'm like, no, you just don't get the groove, man. We connect, our souls connect with the music in a way that makes white people scared, I guess.
Okay, one last question before we get to the financial stuff. Then would it then be fair to say that it's a bit like a tree falling in the forest, in the sense that a tree falls in the forest doesn't make a sound, that there is Kenyan sound, it's just not being distributed like it should?
There's Kenyan everything. There is Kenyan sound, yes. What has happened is our Ministry of Culture and our leaders have not thought about how do we modernize all of these things and make them effective, efficient, and tradable in the global market now. When you look at culture, it is a tradable commodity. Why do I say this? Hollywood is American. They trade in what? American cultures and film. A lot of the hip hop and street music that comes out of the West becomes a tradable commodity here. Nigerians have realized that their music can become a tradable commodity. I mean, you look at Burna Boy, and he's one of the highest paid musicians of 2022. Our leaders do not see the value in the culture and what it can do for us. And that is the problem. If we had people who saw the value, let me digress for a minute. Walk into any restaurant in London, you're not going to get Kenyan food, but you'll get a Nigerian restaurant in London. You'll get an Ethiopian Habesha restaurant in London. You'll get a Chinese restaurant, you'll get an Italian restaurant, you'll get, Kenyans don't have cuisines. We do. But nobody's thought, how do we modernize Kikuyu food, make it elegant enough for the taste buds of the modern person, and plate it well. It might be one piece of maize and bean, and then it's been garnished, but
Okay, like there's a whole line of questioning that I want to go down there, but let me come back to our podcast, right? Which the base of it is money, right? And I guess the first question which I ask everybody is, what is your first conscious memory of understanding that money is a currency, and that money allows you or gives you the opportunity to do things and earn things or buy things or whatever it is in this world? Can it be as early as you'd like it to be?
It would be when I was in high school, and my dad used to drop me off at school, and then he'd tell me, "Jisot, so you find your way home." And I started drawing people's birthday cards. So if you had a girlfriend, I would do the portrait on the card, and I'd make some money, and then I'd be able to have my break money and my lunch money and my transport back home. And I realized, so these hands can make me money, eh? It got to a point where Ministry of Health actually used one of my paintings as a card that I think
at that time.
Yes, I think it's used till date. Every Christmas they distribute that card, and I only got paid 1,500 for that, man.
Was it 1,500 at that time?
Yeah.
So is it a bit like that guy who, I don't know if it's true or not, the guy who did the McDonald's logo, who should have gotten shares?
I should have asked Ministry of Health to actually break me off some shares, man.
Or give you some
every year when you're let it be subscription based or something. But that's when I realized that actually your hands can make you money. I say the fruit of your hands, may your talent bear fruit, and that fruit is what we call money now. So that was my first introduction to, dude, use your brain and then use your craft and make some money out of it. Then I moved into music, and as a young music producer, I didn't know the business. So what I did was, I had my first contract was in 1993 with a studio called Sing Sound Studios, And they said, look, we don't have much money. We're just starting out. So we're going to pay you 10,000 bob a month. I said, that's cool. My rent was 12,000 bob.
12,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you needed to find another 2,000 every
Yeah.
month. Where did you find it?
So that's what now we're talking. So
Yeah.
I said to them, it's cool, I'll take the 10. It's small, but I'll take it. However, if I bring any work here because you say you're starting out and you don't have work, I want 40% of anything I bring. And they were more than glad because they were like, this fool isn't going to ever bring anything. And I thought to myself, well, that's a challenge. So I jumped into the studio. I made my first song, quote unquote. And I played it for my boss and I said, can we go to Coca-Cola? And he says, why? I think Coke will buy this song. And we go to Coke. They had a policy at the time. They would listen to any idea. No idea should be kicked out. So the MD at the time, a French man, welcomes us in and says, oh, how you doing? What's this that you brought? And I say, well, I'm a music producer. I'm just trying, to start out my career. I've got this song. I thought you guys might like it. And it was just before lunchtime. I think he says to himself, well, give me the cassette.
Yeah.
He puts the cassette on his player, presses record. 30 seconds into the song, he stops it. And I think to myself, oh my God, my boss is going to kill me because we are just about to get our... And the guy picks up his phone. He calls his advertising agency and says, why do I have the commercial that I asked you guys to go and look for and I'm the guy who has it? Why? Make it work. And he hangs the phone up. He was so blown away by that song that he gave me Coke, he gave me Sprite, he gave me Stoney, he gave me Fanta. I did all their commercials. And they paid about 400,000 for each. I was getting 40%. Yeah. 40% wasn't a bad deal, bro.
No, it wasn't. And what year was this? What year was this?
94.
So that is 40% of 400,000 times 5. Let's do this. Let's do the
It's
math.
200 and something. Well, it's just under 200.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. So what I did was I thought to myself, now I need to reinvest in myself. I never partied. I still don't. I'm not a club goer. I don't disturb myself with that. I was a creative geek. So for me, any piece of equipment I didn't have, I wanted to have, and I wanted to know how it worked so that I stayed ahead of the game. So I got the first sampler. And that was a big deal.
With this, 800,000 then that you make, you then buy...
I would just buy equipment.
Yeah.
I would buy equipment. And the guys I was working for, they were like, this kid is so into music that just leave him there. Let him just do his thing.
Yeah.
So I ended up owning about 90% of the studio because all the equipment was mine. I was buying it.
Yeah.
So the day they told me, you've grown too big for your boots, we're firing you, I said, yo... no problem. Let me just take my gear and I'm out.
Yeah.
I left them with a shell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I had invested in myself.
Yeah.
So now all I needed was a new premises.
Yeah.
And just some soundproofing and I rock and roll.
Yeah.
And that was my journey into music and understanding that, don't squander the money. Always reinvest in gear so that you are at the cutting edge of everything that you do.
And at any point in this journey, do you then make the conscious decision to be like, okay, so there's money in this space and I'm going to go after this money?
Yes, there was money in commercials.
Yeah.
And I went hard on it. I'll say this though, my caveat is this. My biggest mistake was I got so blinded by shopping for gear that I didn't invest in property. I should have invested in property.
Okay.
Looking back, I should have done other investments other than gear because gear is like a car. You take it out the showroom and the value depreciates.
Yeah.
And obviously, a couple of months from now there'll be brand new gear.
Yeah.
That's bigger and better than that. And because I was so caught up in that hype, I didn't look at future investments that can, protect me from my own stupidity.
Yeah.
Another thing that happened was because we were at the beginnings of a music industry.
Yes.
People like MCSK would register you and then forget that they registered you, and then lose your registration files conveniently, and then take your millions.
Right, and that's a good point, because now I want to talk a bit about how you live, or rather how you lived and your experience in meeting ends meet. I mean, so we know you have this lump sum payment that has come through, but how then are you meeting ends meet as a music producer at that time? Are you struggling to meet ends meet at all? Are you flourishing? Yeah.
I didn't struggle as a music. I never struggled as a music producer. Maybe at the beginning, those first 6-7 years when I was trying to curve my niche.
Yeah.
Those were tough. Those were hand to mouth and literally sleeping in people's houses for a bit. And people not understanding.
Just to try and get context. So by the time you're getting this commercial done and going to Coke, when in the journey is that?
This was after the 6 years of the desert, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the desert like?
People think the musical journey for anyone is gonna be you go into the studio, you do your single, and boom, you've made it. Doesn't work like that, son.
Yeah.
Doesn't work like that. I did my first demo in 91, and I took it to a big record label. It was called Tamasha. It's where Citizen is right now. Tamasha actually still exists under Citizen. People don't know that.
Okay.
And I give the demo to the guy who was in charge of A&R, and it's a mix of gospel, rap, hip hop. And he says, "This is never gonna fly," and he throws the tape back at me.
He throws the tape back at you.
Yeah. Not knowing that I've walked from Woodley to Kilimani for rehearsal, walked all the way from Kileleshwa to Kilimani to give him this demo. I'm sweaty, I'm stinky, I'm dusty, and now I've got to walk back to Woodley very embarrassed because this was supposed to be my big break and it didn't happen. And it took a heck of a lot of time before people believed in what I was doing. But at that time, what was happening? I was every single day on the keyboard trying to figure out how to make music, how to make my music, how to do these things, how to make grooves really quick.
Yeah.
So I got to a point where I challenged myself, how much time is it going to take me to get a groove down? Okay. How many minutes? Can I do it in under X amount of time? Can I do it in under X amount of time? And that was my practice period. But it had zero money, bro.
Yeah. So your people's couches.
Yeah, literally on people's couches. Yeah. I had a friend called Peter Dera. I still do, Reverend Peter Dera, and he housed me for 2 years because one, my folks didn't believe in what the hell I was doing, and I got kicked out of home because of that. But also, I was very hot-headed and passionate about what I wanted to do, and not doing what everybody else wanted me to do.
Yeah.
So that got me into a lot of people's black books of this guy is just being rebellious.
Yeah.
Why does he like all these bright colors and dreadlocks and all this music and blah blah blah? But I had a vision for where it should go.
Yeah.
So by the time I got my first hit, it had been 7 years of just percolating in my head. So making music for me became literally second nature. Switch it on, create the groove, move. Switch it on, create the groove, move. Okay. Because I had so much of that. But also to take us back to the money, I realized that making music for musicians and producing musicians was going to be something that I had to invest in. Okay. Because a lot of musicians would come to you poor. Case in point, Atoti. Yes. The guy who did Atoti, Wiki Mosh. He came with smelly akalas, bro. He had to wash the akalas outside. Literally. Yeah. And we took the shortest amount of time because the studio was the stinkiest at that point. Yeah. But we came out with a groove called Atoti, and we made a hit.
Huge hit, yeah.
But I had to pay for that. And then I had to, make sure it's on radio, it's in the clubs, the distribution and everything. So where do you get the money to invest in the musicians when you yourself don't have money?
Yeah.
I said, well, all these corporates need commercials.
Yeah.
Let's make commercials for the corporates, and let's do corporate events, so that we can take that money and that resource and put it into the music.
Yeah.
That way we have a pool of money to live off of, but also to reinvest into musicians, because at that time, even now, you can't go to a bank and say, I want to do an album, give me a loan. They'll look at
so
you
that
like,
was the
bro.
business model at that time, essentially.
Yeah.
One last question, just around that 6-7 year period. What's the psyche? Because I guess, if you watch enough TED Talks or you read about enough musician stories, Ed Sheeran, you name it, you'll find out, they lived in their cars. Tyler Perry talks about the same thing. But what's the psyche for you in that state in terms of being able to meet your financial needs and financial requirements? Like, what are the thoughts that are going through your head at that point in time?
Bro, it's simple. Live frugal.
Yeah.
Live frugal. When you're in that zone, spend as little as possible. Basically, have food in your stomach, whether it's a slice of bread and black tea, and that's all you're going to have for that day. And I had days like that. And focus on your craft. So take all your energy, mental, spiritual, psychological, and throw it in your craft. Because if you don't do that, and you you lift your head up for a minute and you see how your friends are balling and they've got, the flyest chicks, and they're going to the States to do their degrees, and so is going to do their masters, and you're just on somebody's couch with your keyboard, bro.
Yeah.
You'll get into depression.
Yeah.
Automatic.
So you sort of block it all out.
No, you have to just zone into your craft and polish your craft to a point where people see the gem that you've got. It's literally like digging for gold. It's only when you come up to the surface with the gold that people believe
that there was actually
gold.
Yeah.
But before that, everybody thinks you're a nut job. Imagine the first day of Chimbai.
Just starting to,
the first day of digging,
Yeah.
everybody thinks, bro, so you could have planted maize, man.
Yeah.
You have a djembe, plant maize.
Yeah.
And you're saying, no, there's something down here.
Yeah.
Next day, see you make it into a borehole. Next day, see you make it into a pit latrine.
Yeah.
Next day, that guy's just lost his mind.
Yeah. He's just.
And then one day you come out with gold and they're like, yo! And they all start digging.
Yeah.
That's how it is. So with your craft, if you don't focus on it, you get blindsided by so many different things to a point that you'll just give up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we are post the desert, so to speak, and now you've gotten Coke, gotten this huge meeting that's gone really well, and now so you're saying you figure out that artists have no money, so they cannot afford to be able to pay any of this. So you come up with a business model to be able to fund the artist's dream, or the music dream. What was the end goal though for the music dream? What was the hope?
I don't think there was an intentional financial end result. It wasn't, let's think about how to make money off music. For me, to this present day, it's never been there. It's been, how can I leave a lasting mark with music? If it's going to make money along the way, we'll use the money. And I think when that becomes your drive, the money follows you. But when you try and chase the money, it ain't gonna come.
Yeah.
Not in the music industry, not in any industry.
Yeah.
But when you're so passion driven about something, and then people start to follow you, and you create your own, literally, let me not use the word cult following because of the times we're in. You create your own following, and people believe in what you're doing, and people believe in your dream, and they start to latch on to the dream. You realize that they increase in number and opportunities increase, and those opportunities then are what you can capitalize on. And some of them are financial opportunities, some of them are networking opportunities, some of them are just doors that are open other doors, to much bigger things. So when we started out, for instance, with people like Kalamashaka, our target was East Africa. That was it, to be the biggest East African hip-hop group and to make sure that they're on tour 24/7. Next thing we know, we're being invited to Nigeria. Before Nigerian musicians came to Kenya, Kalamashaka was big in Nigeria.
Yeah.
You know, this was back in '98. We did Benson and Hedges tour in Nigeria, and it was to 70,000 people. There's no Nigerian musician who's come here and gotten 70,000 people.
Yeah.
You know?
And this thing is 98.
This was 98, December 98, December 12th, 1998.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. Hamilton period. You know what Hamilton is?
Yes, yes.
Okay. I didn't when I went to. So
Yeah.
I was in a room in Nigeria. Is 35 degrees and the AC is on, so I'm thinking it's cool. So I put on my jacket, my FUBU jacket.
Yeah.
Back in the day, that was hot.
Yeah, yeah.
And I go outside the hotel and I realized that this cloudy stuff that looks like fog is not fog because it's flipping hot.
Yeah.
What the hell is it? So I have to remove my jacket because now I'm sweating and
Yeah.
I'm told, oh, it's Hamatan. It's, you know, desert sand comes
yeah.
and, oh boy, yeah, embarrassing moments.
Yeah.
Know where you're going before you go where you're going,
Yeah.
so that you don't make a
You
fool
don't-
out
you
of
don't-
yourself. Yeah.
And a question around, I guess that tour with Benson and Hedges, approximately speaking, how much are they putting in your pocket or in the production, the record label's pocket to take them to Nigeria at that time?
That was possibly in the millions of dollars because it wasn't just Kalamashaka that went.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of bands, and Benson and Hedges at the time decided it did so well that they wanted to do the same thing in Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
So Benson and Hedges did a 24-hour concert,
Mm-hmm.
non-stop, with live music
Mm-hmm.
from across Africa, right here in Nairobi,
Mm-hmm.
and that cost a pretty penny.
Yeah.
I know because I was part of the organizing committee.
Yeah.
So the corporates had a lot of passion towards music and investing in music and making sure that African sound is heard, you know. And for us, that's how we managed to keep the narrative going because, you know, you do this concert, you finish it, you move to another one, or you're doing a smaller tour and stuff like that. But also, whilst you're doing that, you make sure that you have your rent money in check, you have your investment money in check, you've got your savings money in check, and those kind of things.
Okay. And before I get into, because it's good you've touched on like investments and stuff you're putting aside, before I get into that, let me ask you, in terms of like now 2023, how much should an average music producer be hoping to make per month, and how much would an average musician be hoping to make per month in 2023, do you think?
Yo, that question is like asking how long is a piece of string. First of all, are you gifted enough to call yourself a music producer, or do you have a fancy schmancy laptop that can just copy paste Fruity Loops on it and then you call yourself a music producer? You've got to know your craft. You've got to be at the top of your game. It's not about fake it till you make it when it comes to creative industry. Creative industry is chop knuckle. Do you know what I mean?
Either you have it or you don't.
So if you're a good music producer, are you a good sound engineer, or have you networked with a sound engineer? Do you have a good studio? You know, because you could be a great music producer with no studio. So you're going to share that money with
the studio
owner. And then you're going to need a sound engineer to make the music pop and all. Have you studied your craft enough to be able to invest in yourself, or do you want guys to be paying you 2,000 bob per track? You know, because that in the real world that we're in right now, that's what's happening. A lot of music producers aren't making a lot of money because one, they sign the wrong contracts with the musicians. Two, they don't have enough skill. Three, they're sharing their money with everybody else because they don't have the knowledge. And we're in a world right now where you can get a beat online. So it's a very dangerous trade to be trying to make money off of, unless you're offering something that I can't get online. Back to your roots, because I'm not going to be able to get those roots grooves online.
Yeah.
So I'm literally giving them a blueprint of how you could make. So per track, to go back to your question, per song, if you were producing music per song, you should be, in my mind, not less than $500 per song.
Per song.
That is just, and that is excluding royalty.
Yeah.
$500 per song plus some royalty take home.
Yeah.
So 15, 20, 50%, however you agree with the musician. But does that happen in the real world? No, it doesn't, because also I've got to say this honestly.
Yeah.
A lot of Kenyan musicians are very selfish.
Mm-hmm.
They don't think about Ubuntu. I am because you are.
Mm-hmm.
If they thought about the collective, there would be a lot more robust, strong, able music producers. But they've been pushed to the bottom of the food chain in the music industry to a point where you're told, you take 2,000, if you don't want 2,000, leave, take your beat, hata ibambi.
Yeah.
Yeah, ibambi kabisa. You know, you get demoralized. You're like, yo, bro.
Yeah.
I'm telling you this true story.
Yeah.
I won't name the musician, but he came to my studio and says, look, bro, me, I can get these beats for 4,000 online.
Yeah.
I was like, by all means, go get them online for 4,000, Bob.
Yeah.
You save money, you save me a headache.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to make you a beat, and then it's a big beat on radio all over the place, and you're going for concerts using my music, and I paid for KPLC.
Yeah.
With the 4,000, Bob. Bro, no, it's not like that.
Yeah.
So you have to be very, very careful about how you sign your contracts.
Yeah.
It should be a down payment and royalty based.
Yeah.
And if you are on top of your game I'm talking about Kenya, not Nigeria.
In Kenya,
Nigeria is a different ball game.
Yeah.
South Africa is a different ball game. Kenya, the music producers are just beginning to cut their teeth in this industry. A lot of what we would like to do as the older generation is sort of like train them so that they can get their chops quicker. But there's a lot of, what do you know about modern stuff? And ego and art, they don't blend well. You know, because I might tell you something that would change your entire life.
Yeah.
But if you're not in the headspace to digest it, then it's just rubbish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, so they could be making a lot of money. On average, music producers in Kenya should be making 200,000-300,000 per week.
Yeah.
And that's like if you're busy like Timberland in the studio without moving.
Yeah.
You don't move. You're not going to clubs. You're not getting high on some cheap supply of something. You're focused on your craft.
What's the reality at the moment? What's more of the reality?
The reality is bad.
Yeah.
That's the honest truth. I don't want to paint it like as if it's a bed of roses.
Yeah.
A lot of musicians are opting to self-produce and self-write, which is not a bad thing, because sometimes the idea is in your head and nobody else is going to get the idea. But also sometimes you're just a very good vocalist.
Yes.
You can't write.
Yes.
So don't try and write Kiswahili sanifu wakati unajua Buddha. Hata sheng ni ngumu kwako. Sasa unajaribu sasa kutunga ngoma ya kukatia dem na Kiswahili sanifu.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah. It's problematic.
Issue kidogo.
Yeah.
You need to know where your strong points are and figure them out, because when you think about the question you've asked me about music producers, there should be a gap in the industry for songwriters.
Yeah.
Because there's some very good songwriters.
Yeah.
Kenya has actually produced one of the best songwriters he's in Nashville right now, and he left back in the 90s. He was like, I don't...
Yeah.
Gone.
Supporting the talent,
Can't even remember his name. And he just writes. That's all he does. He writes. You know? We have the talent, but the talent doesn't pool itself, because as soon as a musician becomes tops, they are looking to save as much money as possible, because also they want to live the life.
And how much are musicians then making then? I mean, for even this money that they're then saving, how much are
they're not making bad money, bro, to be honest. It's like asking a politician how much money they're making.
If we were to say,
But it's not bad money.
let's say you're a top 10 artist in Kenya.
Let's put it this way. A lot of them have bought property, houses, and are living pretty well.
And what is the source of their revenue generation? What's
corporate gigs, concerts, tours. If you get a very good song, let's say you get a major breakthrough with a hit, and you can do 5 concerts a month in different, just East Africa, different areas. Like you're in Mombasa, you're in Kisumu, you're in Dar es Salaam, you're gonna be making 200,000-300,000 per gig, and that's take home. That's not, you're not paying for any accommodation and everything. That's your take home. That's in pocket. That's almost $1 million plus every single month. And remember, it's cyclic. So what happens is you think on the 6th month, Mazesi, I'm still gonna make another $1 million next month, and then the 6th month, boom, scandal online. You've been cancelled by everybody, you know.
And there's no more money
your foot was caught in a hotel room with some other kachik there who took a photograph of you doing I don't know what, and now, and the cancel culture is there. So, bro,
without naming any names, in Kenya, what's the, and again, this is going to be like a question to the bird, so to speak. What's the largest sum of money that you've heard or seen for yourself that a musician has been able to make over a year per se? This may be including.
I'll tell you what happened with Unborgable.
Okay.
So we made the song, and I told you it was a 30-minute gig.
Yeah.
So I'm not taking the song seriously. Everybody else is taking the song seriously. Then I get a phone call. Hi, my name is so-and-so from the House of Commons. I would like to have a meeting with you at I won't name the hotel, but it's in town.
Yeah.
Please do come in. And so my cousin tells me, yeah, that's legit, man. I know that guy, so please just go and see him. And I go and see this very dapper-looking dude with shades on and everything, tweed suit. And he says, we would like to buy that song for Raila and Kibaki. And I'm like, okay, yeah, cool, no problem. How much you got?
Yeah.
You know, you want to buy a song. Never happened before to me, but cool beans.
Yeah.
It's the first time I saw $10,000, bro.
Yeah.
Cash. I shook like a leaf. I was scared. Less.
Yeah.
And
this is 2003.
No, 2002.
2002, yeah.
That was a lot of money. It was over $1 million. So I take it, I put it in my jacket, I go into my old beat up car, and I go around the roundabout at Uhuru Highway like 3-4 times to make sure I'm not being followed, because this is the type of money you hear that people get killed over.
Yeah.
And then I take a route that's not towards my house, and then I go home like at 8 o'clock in the night, and I open some compartment in the roof and I go and throw it there.
Yeah.
And just sleep. And I thought to myself, did that just happen? Did that just happen? And Unborgable, over the course of like 3 months of the campaign, made us so much money. Akina Gidi they were buying old Volkswagen Beetles called Opuk.
Yes.
And revamping them just for hype.
Just for hype.
And they invested in their small little gigs and stuff, and so did I. And I literally, that's the time I really upgraded the studio. And there is money to be made if you hit that lucky strike. Literally, it's Rick Astley, "Never Gonna Give You Up." You know that song you heard before on TikTok?
Yeah.
Only God knows when you're gonna make that lucky strike.
Yeah.
But make it last as long as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Because you don't know how much you can milk out of it.
Yeah.
Now, fast forward now, when I say $1 million, did I say $1 million? $1 million shillings. It sounds like a lot, but it's not really a lot. You could make a lot more if you had the right network, the right connections, the right the right systems in place to enable you make money, because you can make that money just off of royalties, literally, and airplay, not to mention concerts, if you have good enough songs. You know, why do you think Burna Boy is making that much money? He's not the biggest artist in Nigeria. Asoke is the biggest artist, but Asoke is not making half as much as Burna is making. It's about getting the right management network, and literally your time will come, but you have to have the right team with you. And then what do you do with all that money? You could find yourself like Return of the Mac flipping burgers in McDonald's. Later, because
what did you do with the money that you made?
I changed my career. Again, reinvest in self. So I realized that this music gig, man, there's these kids coming up and they might take over. So start retiring slowly. I went into television, and I bought very expensive television gear. And then I started doing one of the biggest TV shows back in 2004 called VP. To give you a scale of how big it was, at that time, the Stedman Report used to say that news is the highest viewed on any television station. And it has never been surpassed by anything, local or international content. News is where you want to advertise because news is highest viewed. Comes VP, and 3 months of VP, this show that we have that is literally just two guys having fun on screen. And we are the highest viewed. And we don't know what to do with this information apart from renegotiate. So we renegotiated. When we started off, VP was paying us about 15,000 shillings a show, which was barely enough. Obviously, it's 2004. It's some money, but it's not barely enough. And 6 months later, the guy who was being paid the least off that show was being paid like 40 G's a month. And that was a cameraman. It was making us serious bread. Then I realized there's a gap in television that nobody's capitalizing on. So I went into TZ, Dar es Salaam, created one of the biggest TV shows on TVT at the time, TBC, Tanzanian Broadcasting Corporation. And then I came back and my services were needed by one Mr. Politician. Won't name names. Did that gig, got paid okay, burnt a lot of bridges, realized politics and entertainment don't go too well. Moved to the UK and continued training on audiovisual. Did a lot of training in animation and television production, and then ended up now as a trainer across Africa, training people on how to create content and how to fiddle with gadgets. And after some time, I just got bored of that. I was making pretty good money.
What's the definition of pretty good money? Give us a range.
Doing what I was doing in Nigeria, I was making about $12,000 a month. And that was take home. They would pay for accommodation. They would pay for everything. I had a driver on call. I was living in a hotel. Food was being paid for. Laundry was being paid for, gym was being paid for, and I would just take that money and see the world. See the world. But no, I what I did was I invested in some property in the UK. A deal went south and I lost a lot of that property, but that's what I was doing.
That's where the money went.
Yeah.
Gosh. Okay. So I guess as we sort of wrap up, because I can see we're getting to sort of like the hour mark. When you look, so first of all, it sounds like the music element of your career was, I don't know, would it be correct to say it was really more of like a stepping stone and like a door opener than a place where you were really looking for like financial return per se? Because it sounds like, with the business model you had with the musicians, it was more of commercials, and through the commercials then we do the music elements, but really it's the commercials as like your bread and butter through that space, and then it opens up specific doors with regard to potential licensing and all of that. But then again, it sounds like your bread and butter was always something else, and then there was the music element, which was passion led, which had great opportunities and opened fantastic doors, but primarily there was always sort of like something.
When I started out my music career, I heard a story about Janet Jackson owning part of Chase Bank, and Michael Jackson owning the biggest catalog in the world, which was the Beatles catalog. And I thought to myself, what do I need to do? Then comes J-Lo, and J-Lo has these fragrances. And this was back in the 90s. And then comes all these other musicians, like Timbaland owns a jeans company.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, you need... So it looks like the pattern is this. You use music as a tool, as an advertising tool of who you are. And then you create stuff that you believe in that can generate money for you. So, I mean, when you think about Timbaland, you don't think about jeans.
Yeah.
Justin Timberlake, sorry. You don't think about jeans.
Yeah.
But now that we've seen Rihanna do it with Fenty and all of that, you realize that she doesn't need to sing a day in her life. Then you realize that it's about leveraging on who you are. So for me, music and entertainment and all these things, these crafts that I've learned, are just tools to leverage. So when I'm doing Joka Jok now, which is my bag company, I do my own photography. I do my own videos. I can shoot myself, If I didn't go through this journey, I'd be relying on other people to come and help me create content for myself. And I need to create 6 pieces of content every single day.
Yeah.
Somebody would have been making a whole lot of money, but I've got cameras, lights, everything, studio, I've got my own resources at my fingertips. So I can move the company how I want to move it. It's about creating ponds that you can leverage on. That's what music for me has always been about, and that's what entertainment has been about. Because then as soon as you can leverage and you have extra money, then you can move your money in different areas. But you can't make a financial move if you don't have finance.
Yeah.
There's no other way to put it.
Yeah. If you don't have the money.
Yeah.
So 2 final questions. When you look at your, and this again I ask everybody, when you look at your cohort, people you were potentially in school with, who ended up in different careers and have achieved success in those careers, do you have an ounce of regret with what you then... And this is a question in a vacuum of purely money, return on investment on what you put into the craft and what you've been able to pull out.
As long as you can continually draw from your craft, and make some financial return, you're doing okay.
Yeah.
When I look back at the guys who were with me in high school, a lot of them had to change careers. A lot of them ended up not enjoying their lives. A lot of them ended up, a large number ended up as alcoholics, because the dream fades. There's nothing to live for. The money ends. I don't think my money is going to end. It's not going to be a vast amount of wealth, but it will come in dribs and drabs, and I'll be able to maneuver my way through life. And that's the most important thing, because why do we need finance? We don't need finance so that you can sit down and say to your guys, "Ebu check my savings," and then you open your safe and you show them, see dollar.
Yeah.
No, that's not what you need. You don't need money for that. You need money, one, for a rainy day when maandamano happens and you don't have chums to buy bread. But you also need money to be able to move your dream further and a step further,
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people in the creative sector don't see that. They see, I just want to make money so I can buy a house. I just want to make money so I can build my mom a house. I just want to make, and then you make the money and then you buy a house and then what? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that was the end goal, okay, you've done it and the universe has listened to you and it's given you a house, and now you can't even refurbish the house because you didn't have a plan past that.
Yeah.
You know, you have to have a much longer vision than
Buying the house.
a static object.
Yeah.
Dreams are dynamic. They're not,
Yeah.
and they have to keep moving. And
Yeah.
who you are today, when I meet you in 2030, you won't be the same guy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you're the same guy, then
There's
you'll be depressed.
yeah, there's a problem.
Yeah.
There's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of kids come out of high school and they're told, go to university and get a degree. Once you get a degree, go get a job. You'll get a job. And you get the degree for your folks. And then you can't find a job.
Yeah.
And then you don't even remember what you studied because you didn't like it.
Yeah.
You did it because you were forced to do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've got doctor friends who didn't want to be doctors. So they're the worst doctors on earth, you know? Literally, short of telling you, okay, so what's your problem? You have malaria. Okay, here's a joint. Go smoke the joint, you'll feel better. Yeah. There's a lot of people stuck in in bodies that don't hold the dream that they had.
Yeah.
Their dream has been so killed by life.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't matter how much they immerse, they still just feel like, why do I not feel free?
To the wealth or,
exactly,
or
you know.
Money or
So I know we're talking about money and the need for money, but money is a tool. You need the tool. Money is not an end goal.
Yeah.
It's a tool to, it's literally, money is the fuel that fuels the dreams.
Yeah.
Do you know?
I hear you. Yeah. I hear you.
So if I, for instance, in the leather studio, if I need to make bags, I need to buy leather.
Yeah.
If I don't have money,
You can't buy the leather.
I can't buy leather. So that day is dead.
Yeah.
Now there's 12 people twiddling their thumbs wondering where their money is going to come from.
Yeah.
You know, so money needs to be a continuum.
Yeah.
It has to be something that you constantly strive to get your money right, but also put your money in the right places.
Okay. So final question, and this may be a bit controversial, depending on your response, of course. Wash stroke, money laundering and the entertainment industry. Obviously, that creates an opportunity for someone to have a lot of money in their pockets, and it's a very unregulated space, so to speak. So you could quote whatever figures you want to quote for whatever equipment or whatever it is. So how, I guess it's more of a general question again, in your experience, how prevalent is that in our industry at the moment?
You know Frank Sinatra?
Yes.
You know he was funded by the mafia?
I did not know that. No.
All right. So now let's move to Kenya, as you mull on that.
Yes.
It happens everywhere in the world.
Yeah.
It happens everywhere. It's an easy space to permeate in because, one, you've got all this unclean money, and there's this young kid who has all these beautiful women swooning all over him, and you want those women and you want to control that kid.
Yeah.
So you come and tell him, look, man, I'll pay for your music video. Where do you want to do it? And he says, I want to do it in Dubai.
Yeah.
And you fly him out to Dubai and you have a deal with him to have like 3 chicks in your hotel room, and
Whatever,
and then you're in the video and you're like, yeah, picture me rolling, and now you're legit because you were in a music video with this young and upcoming musician who you funded, and then you say, oh well, this feels good, let's make this into a record label, and then you start hiding facts and figures and finances all over the place because you can do it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of record labels and a lot of people who've gone into the music industry across the globe.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about Kenya, across the globe, because it's a very easy place to hide money.
Yeah.
Not just money, There's been musicians who've been caught trafficking drugs.
Yeah.
Because they travel first class. So nobody's going to really... And then they're musicians. So everybody's looking at them like, oh, yeah, he can't be doing drugs, man.
Yeah.
And then they get busted in China and all other places.
Yeah.
Trafficking. I never did that.
Yeah.
True story. I was once working with a graphic designer, very, very good graphic designer. So she'd hang around the studio just to get inspiration. And one day her dad was very influential. One day as we went out to get a pizza, there was an unmarked 504 Peugeot.
Mm-hmm.
When you see those cars, you know you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And they called her. They said, your father has told us to tell you to stop hanging out with some of those guys that you're hanging out with. Mm-hmm. Because they're going to all be in trouble, and so will you. And that's how a lot of my friendships ended back in 97. Mm-hmm. I had to just walk away from certain people because they were known to be doing some stuff that they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
We didn't know. We just thought, hey.
They just hang out.
Yeah, these are cool peeps, man. I want a pizza, they buy pizza. I want shoes, they buy shoes, hey. But when you're young and stupid, especially as a musician, and you're really just focused on your craft, you think everybody wants to bless you because they believe in you, and sometimes they want to bless you because they want a piece of what you got. That's all.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll wind up with this. Your, I guess, top 3 lessons for anyone who is looking at venturing into the creative industry and wants to be able to earn a living, I guess, be successful. Yeah.
1, invest in self, invest in knowledge as much as possible. There's never enough knowledge. You've got to know what's happening, when it's happening, why it's happening, especially in your craft. 2, do not focus on the competition. That's what they would have you do. You should always focus on your goal. Because once you focus on what somebody else is doing, your goal disappears. And you just become focused on them.
Yeah.
3, never believe the hype.
Yeah.
What do I mean? As soon as you become big, there's this monster that creeps in that makes you want to believe that you are a small god. You're untouchable. You can never be brought down. Bro, music, entertainment is cyclic. There's ups and then there's downs. And you've got to realize that when you're down is when you start feeling the depression because you're down. It's called a depression for a reason. Because you're down and you start thinking, maybe I should do drugs just to forget the fact that I had a hit song, or I had a hit film, or I was once famous. No. I said it's cyclic. Don't focus on the down. At the time that you're down, you should keep your head down and focus on the next thing that you need to be doing so that you can come back up. It's cyclic.
Yeah. People
never see it that way. But life is cyclic.
Yeah.
Those are my top 3.
So the money is cyclic. The hype is cyclic. Focus on your craft and don't focus on the competition.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I feel like, again, I said this in my other episode, but I feel like there's still lots of stuff that we can definitely talk about and go down, and I'm sure we will have you here again. But for today, I'd like to wrap up there.
Great.
And that was Financially Incorrect, podcast sponsored by FX Pesa, and we had Josiah with us today. And I hope you guys I hope it's a great watch, and we're able to take a couple of lessons. Yeah. Bye.